Hey friends, welcome back to art. I'm going to start this art lesson with a story. The legend is hopefully going to teach you about what the idea of Wabi-Sabi is in Japan. That a young man set out to learn about the customs and magic of the tea ceremony. The tea master he approached asked the young man to tend to his garden. In a zeal to impress, he swept and raked and spruced and polished until the garden was incredibly immaculate, not a leaf out of place. But before showing the master his handiwork, he shook a cherry tree, causing a few petals to float randomly down to the ground. If you can appreciate the random addition of the petals to an otherwise fine setting, then you can appreciate Wabi-Sabi. Wabi-Sabi is, in a nutshell, accepting things as they are, knowing that even imperfect things are perfect in their own way. I brought a couple things to show you. This is an example of a Wabi-Sabi item I have from my childhood, my babyhood. This is my first toy. Even though she's old, I always loved her. My mom had to sew her here, and her lace came off, and I think that my grandma had to sew her little pink stitching mouth back on. But she's something, when she got hurt or she got ripped, I didn't throw her away and say, I don't like you anymore because you're ripped and ugly. No, I didn't do that. I loved her, and so I loved her enough to fix her. And even though I know she looks just like a raggedy old doll, I can appreciate her beauty in my own way. And I bet you have some items like that at your house. One of the Japanese sewing traditions that came about is called Boro stitching. And Boro stitching, I'm going to read from this book called Visible Mending, which inspired me to learn more about Wabi-Sabi and Boro stitching. Boro stitching was used to mend things to begin with by Japanese fishermen and their families. They would use this stitching style to repair things that were ripped, and they would also use it to layer fabric on top of each other, stitch fabric together so that when you had that all sandwiched together, it's warmer because it gets cold there in Japan. Let's take a little look at Pinterest to see what kind of Boro examples we can find. Oh, look, here's some examples. We have, look at these glove or mittens. I'm not even sure. Would they be glittens because of the way that the fingers are sewn on there? Oh my goodness. And this that I'm highlighting, or that I highlighted, is a Japanese kimono. Those were outer garments that were kind of like robes traditionally worn in Japan. Nowadays, people still wear kimonos in Japan, but it's more worn on special occasions like weddings and festivals and funerals, and mostly by women. Most young people like you, though, today would wear what is called Western clothing, like European style or American style clothing, like jeans and t-shirts and leather jackets and stuff like that. Next up, we're going to take a look at a Japanese high fashion company called Capital, and they are using those ideas of Wabi-Sabi and the beautiful Boro stitching to make, they're translating it into modern styles and fashions, which I think is a pretty cool idea. So if we take a look at these a little bit more closely, you can see that they're using the Boro stitching, and this butterfly on the girl's bandana, I think, is made in stitches. There are a lot of different ways you can use the stitches to make your clothes, I think, even better than they were before they got ripped. Next up is a video where I show you how to make these stitches. You can find out how to patch and Boro stitch in my next video.